All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. This is episode 121 of our podcast. I'm your host for all 121 episodes, Rob Fanzo, joined by Matt Mad Max Rhodes once again this week. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Robert. How are you? Also, hey-o to those people out there.
You know what I realized the other day? I've seen the new Mad Max with Tom Hardy and I loved it.
Yeah.
I've seen the original with Mel Gibson.
Okay.
I've not seen Mad Max 2, which I hear is just as good.
Oh, okay.
I need to see that. I realize that's a gap in my Mad Max compendium, I guess.
Well, yeah, I feel like also like, aren't they remaking, or they're making a second one with Tom Hardy, right? So like. Well,
yes, but it took George Miller 25 years to make the new one. So I'm not holding my breath.
True.
You know, I think there were some budgeting issues or something like that. So we'll see.
All right.
We'll see what happens. Plus, I think it was supposed to be more focused on Charlize Theron, actually, if I remember correctly, because everybody fell in love with her character. But we'll see what happens there. Anyway, Matt.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. We've got a great show lined up for people this week. We've got lots of news to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about Last of Us 2, some heat that I thought was kind of interesting that was coming on. One of the actresses. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about keeping time with PlayStation profiles. We'll talk a little bit about Far Cry 6. And then I also was going to get your thoughts on some of the crazy stuff that's been going on in the gaming industry with accusations, as well as Horizon Zero Dawn on PC. And of course, Madden's little issue and the price of next gen. And so I think I'm actually going to call this episode The Price of Entry.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll see. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But first, two things. One, there is no PS blog drop this week to tell us what games are going to be in See You Soon.
Boo.
I know. I did scavenge the store and did find 3 with dates from this past week. And so we'll talk about those 3 at least and mention them, you know, if we have. And so it'll be like an abbreviated See You Soon. That also screws up our total. So we'll just say that there's about 350 games total this year so far. We'll see if maybe they get that updated by next week. Apparently, though, I want to say, if you read the blog, people are not happy about that. People are very angry in the blog comments. So did we talk about this last week?
I think we did a little bit, yeah.
They're very angry about not having the drop done correctly. And I didn't think anybody cared about the drop except us and a couple other podcasts I listened to.
No,
apparently people care because people are angry. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully that gets resolved soon because I'm getting tired of that's the way I find new games. Like,
right, absolutely.
Or remember ones that I've forgotten about that don't get necessarily as much publicity or press is by doing that. And so it's kind of disappointing when every week I have to like scour the store myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, Matt, let's first talk about what we always like to talk about, and that is what we've been playing.
That's correct, Robert. I haven't really been doing much. I've had a friend in for the weekend for this extended weekend, visiting me from Pittsburgh. So I was pretty busy, but I did get to play a little bit of Last of Us this week. I did get to play a little bit of Rocket League, a little bit of Fortnite, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really been able to do too much. So as soon as I'm glad we're doing this now, because as soon as we're done with this podcast, I think I'm going to take a walk, eat, and then play like video games until I fall asleep.
Yeah, that's usually my motorendum too.
Yeah, exactly.
Except it's like 8 o'clock at night now because of my child.
Right. Yeah. What have you been playing, Robert?
Honestly, I've been strictly playing The Last of Us Part 2 because,
nice.
You know, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, obviously I had my first child. When I actually have time, it's maybe 2 hours here, 2 hours there.
Yeah.
I really want to play like the Hunt Showdown. I really want to get back to Outer Worlds and finish that up.
Sure.
But I want to get through The Last of Us because Ghost of Tsushima is coming out and my time is already limited. And I have family coming down to visit next weekend too.
just kick them out. Just let them enjoy the grandkid, and you play video games.
That might be the plan. I might be like, you guys, here you go.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go in there
your grandbaby
to do taxes. Yeah, so I mean, it is tough. My only spare time is Last of Us, and so I know a lot of people have finished Last of Us Part 2 because I see it on my Twitter feed all the time.
Yeah,
and I know that like people are posting spoilers and all this crap and trying to avoid them and dodge them. But that's the only thing I've really been playing, and I actually think it might be taking me a little longer than normal too, because I got to be honest. A, I'm shooting for as many collectibles as I can in the first playthrough, and B, I've been really obsessed with photo mode. I have taken so many photos. Really? I have not taken one. Oh man, I'm going to spam my Twitter feed at one point and probably my Instagram feed just to show people like how much, you can follow me at WeAre1UR2 on Twitter and WeAre1UR2_gaming on Instagram, just to show people how many I've been taking. I've probably spent a good half hour with Ellie taking photos in a part of Seattle and just messing with the filters and the angle and the motion blur and all this other stuff. So cool. So I think that also, I know I lost at least 25 minutes one day doing that, but it's hard to get through. But I am officially into the second half of the game. And I know that because there are some big events about halfway through the game that occur that signal to you that you're probably halfway done. Yeah. So, or a little more than halfway, I guess, depending on how long this second half of the journey takes. Yeah. Well, I'm anxious to get there because you were behind me for the longest time, but then obviously with everything that I had going on this week, you've caught up and surpassed me. So I'm interested to kind of catch up to where you are to see what you're cryptically talking about. Yeah, and I won't spoil anything for anybody. I happened to get up one morning with my daughter at like 6 a.m. and my wife was still asleep. And so from like 6 to like 9:30 when I let her sleep and the baby was just sleeping with me, I just sat there and I was like, well, I'm exhausted. I barely can keep my eyes open, but I'm holding this child. So I rested her on my legs. And it's amazing how much you can play with a baby in your arm and your controller like in your hands as well. Like I'm holding her, but my controller's like behind her. And so like I'm still shooting, runners while I'm like rocking my baby. So it's a very dad skill to, I guess, have. You have good eye-hand coordination from all the video games you've already been playing, Robert. You've been training. You've been training your whole life for this moment. I have been. It's like the dad Olympics, We'll talk. I want to actually do a spoiler cast with you, I think. It might be a little off in the timing because I feel like a lot of other people have done spoiler casts by then, but I think it would be fun to do. Yeah, for sure. Just to really get our thoughts all the way out about The Last of Us Part 2 because, and I'm not going to dive into too much right now, but I mentioned to you right before the podcast, I think I like the story more for the original Last of Us, but the gameplay for the second one a lot better. Yeah. Okay. We'll see if the last half of the game changes my mind, but I don't know. I just don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Cool. Anyway, that's all I've been playing. Nice. The Last of Us Part 2. Just trying to... Oh, you know what? I take that back. I did play Ori and the Blind Forest. I'm trying to finish that game up on my Switch, and my daughter was in my hands, and I was like, well, I can't carry... The way she was sleeping, I couldn't carry her easily into the game room, so my Switch was laying right there. I picked that up instead and did do that. So, all right. So let's move into the news. And so we're not going to have a strict topic this week, but again, I think if there is a topic, it's going to be this one. And so this is kind of a news/topic based conversation to start things off with, because I think this is the top story and something that I really want to spend time talking about. And then we can kind of fly through everything else. So here we go. Let me read this a little bit. So this comes via Push Square and several other sites, but 2K Sports this week, along with more publishers, seem to be pondering price hikes for their PlayStation 5 software. Speculation comes courtesy of research firm IDG Consulting, which noted in an interview with gamesindustry.biz that game pricing has remained relatively static since 2005, despite development costs increasing between 200 and 300%. Now, Sean Layden had an interview last week, I believe it was, where he talked about the same thing, where in his 20 years in gaming, the price has never gone up, but the development costs have gone up triple-fold, and he expected that to go up even more with PlayStation 5 generation, and just didn't think that that was a sustainable way of doing business and that we were going to have this clash between prices and development costs. Well, earlier this past week, it was revealed that NBA 2K21 will cost $59.99 on PlayStation 4 and $69.99 on next-gen consoles, an increase of $10 compared to PlayStation 4. The last time that next-gen launch software pricing went up was in 2005 and 06, when it went from $49.99 to $59.99 at the start of the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 generation, explained IDG's boss Yoshio Osaki. During that time, he said, the quote, the costs and prices in other affiliated verticals have gone up. He continued to point out that in the same time, cable prices have increased 105% and cinema tickets have gone up 39%. He points out that even with that increase from $69.99 from $59.99, that the price from 2005 to 2020 next gen is up only 17%, far lower than other comparisons. So while that may not cover other costs completely, it does move it more in the proper direction. My question to you is, Matt, what do you think of this price point? Do you think everybody's going to follow this? What do you think that's going to mean for next gen for game pricing? Because I found this really interesting. The NBA 2K21 was the first one to announce this, considering it's a yearly title and it's not something like Cyberpunk that we might get once every 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the very least, by them doing it, it sets that precedent, right? Like, this is a game that's, is going to come out every year. It's going to be this price. So that also frees up titles like Cyberpunk or, Horizon Zero Dawn, Forgotten West or whatever, Forbidden West.
Forbidden West.
Yeah. So that also frees them up to be like, well, I mean, annual game is that price. There's no reason we shouldn't be at that price.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that game's there's gonna be a 2K22 coming out a year later. So if that's what they're charging people, clearly that's what people are gonna. I think that's what it's going to shift to. I don't really I'm sure it's fine. It's not like that big of a deal. Obviously, when we were younger in 2005, when the PS3 came out, we were just out of high school. Just like had our little dinky jobs. We're like, $10, that's gonna break us. You know what I mean? Like, when you're not making that money or whatever, you have so many other expenses all of a sudden, and not that it's not the same way, but they're right. I mean, it's been 15 years since a price hike and they're only raising it $10. It's really not that big of a deal.
Right.
I will say, though, the amount of AAA games that they churn out is what's concerning, right? Because, think of how many games were actually made back then compared to these days. So that's where I'm concerned about my wallet.
Okay. That makes sense.
The $10 per game is not that big of a deal. It's how many amazing AAA games they keep churning out that I'm like, damn, I have to buy this. And I feel like, again, that's where my wallet's going to see the most hit is the fact that they're just churning out better and better games every day, every year, every month, whatever, So I want to play them,
So, yeah. And so I was wondering if that was going to deter you at all from certain games or kind of slow you down from purchasing certain games day one or pre-ordering them.
I mean, it might. I don't think that it will. Maybe certain games, kind of like, if there's going to be like a annual Assassin's Creed again kind of a thing, then maybe not. Maybe I wait. Because here's the thing, a lot of the time, say they're $70 or $69.99, most of those games are coming out, September, October, November. And by Black Friday, they're cut. The games that come out in September are half off by Black Friday.
Yeah,
and the games that came out a little bit closer to Black Friday are $10 to $20 off. So you can still find ways around that, right? You can still find a workaround,
right,
or ways to save you money in that sense. So, I mean, it might affect some things like that, but I don't know. I feel like with everything going digital, or things going digital in that way. If the price hikes are going to be this, then just buy the game digitally and pay for the cheaper version of the system. Save money that way, right? I mean, because here's the thing, right? If games are going to cost that much, it's only $10 increase. If the rumors are true, where the digital edition is going to be probably $100 less, that's 10 games you can buy for that difference without quote unquote taking a hit wallet-wise.
Right. And some people are, I actually seen a couple of things on this. So my thought on this too is that, this is a good chance for Sony to clean up and say physical $69.99, but our storefront will never go above $59.99 for this generation.
Yeah.
And then all those people who are like, oh, $10. Well, there you go. You saved it digitally, right? And you're passing that on. You buy 6 games and suddenly you've got another one at that price point. So because you're saving $10 on each one.
Yeah.
So that's a chance for Sony to push people towards digital sales even more. The other part of that I've seen that people are concerned with is if they do that, then what they're going to do is eliminate physical games. Then, people, of course, put on their tinfoil hats and worry a little bit about, well, if you eliminate physical games, what happens if you start saying, well, you don't own the license to this anymore and you can't access this game anymore, right?
Right.
But technically, I want to point out to people that you purchase that game, you basically are purchasing the license on the physical game too. Now, I know there's a difference between online and offline mode, but with more and more games requiring an online connection, there's going to be several games that if you wanted to play them offline, Sony came out tomorrow and said, you can no longer play, I don't know, let me look at one of my pile here. You can no longer play Metro Exodus anymore. The game is done. There's copyright issues, whatever. If that game required you to be online connected at any point, the license that you purchased through that physical disc is still going to expire at some point then, right? Because it probably does a background check to make sure you're connected. And so I know that people are always physical, but there is a potential for that to happen. You are technically buying the license to a game, as far as I understand. If I'm wrong, somebody please let me know. So I can understand where people would be concerned about this trending towards that digital future, but I hate to tell you, it's probably going to come down to that anyway. We're getting more and more digital, and it's going to become that point where digital outpaces physical, and we're not going to be that interested in. The other concern I have with this is that people will miss out on a lot of games because of their physical only preference and saying, well, I'm paying $59.99 to have a digital only thing. But that's I'm going down a rabbit hole. What I was going to say about this price hike, though, is it's expected. I'm shocked It's actually not $79.99, to be honest, because a lot of collector's editions are $79.99. I could very easily see them going, well, you're paying $79.99 for the collector's edition. Now that's just the standard, right? $20 increase. I mean, and that's not going to be every game. Your Transistors, your Furies, your Nex Machinas, your probably even Miles Morales is probably only going to cost $39.99, would be my guess, or $49.99. That's not going to be every single game. So,
right.
And the other thing I wanted to say, the last thing I want to say about this matter that I think is interesting is it's $10. If you weren't going to buy it at $59.99 day one, you probably aren't going to buy it at $69.99 day one either. Like this price hike is not going to, if I was going to buy Last of Us Part 2 on day one, whether it was $59.99 or $69.99, I was probably going to do it anyway. $10 does not make a difference to me. If I was hesitant about buying it, even if it stayed $59.99, I'm already hesitant to buy it already. I'm probably not going to buy it anyway. So what's it matter if it jumps up $10?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? The games that people want, people are going to buy regardless of the price.
Sure. Yeah. The one thing I will say, like to your statement about the, it could give Sony a chance to drive digital sales. I mean, yes and no, but like you also don't want to undercut your publisher or your developer because of that either, right? So I don't necessarily think they do that, at least in the beginning. Like, you want people to get used to that new price, no matter where they're purchasing it. But I do see what you're saying. I just feel like I don't know if that's a good idea to do right away.
Right. So
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Obviously, like I'm kind of excited to see like how they do it. It would be great to do it digitally, but how much are they really saving on digital versus physical? They're really not saving that much. To print a copy of the game is probably pennies.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be a little bit more than that at this point because of, we'll see. I have no idea, to be honest, but I imagine, let's say it's even $5, right? Who knows? But I'm okay with this price hike. It doesn't bother me. And I know that that's going to garner some reactions where people are like, well, what happens when it jumps to $79.99? Is that going to bother you? Well, if it takes another 20 years for it to do that, no. Because I pay way more than that for a movie ticket over, you know what I mean? I remember when movie tickets used to be $4 or $5, and now you easily pay $10 for a movie ticket.
Back in the day when we used to work at a movie theater.
Yeah. So, and nobody's boycotted movies completely now. movies don't have the same power, I think, sometimes, but that's also a Netflix and streaming. And actually, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. It's going to make streaming services like PS Now and Game Pass much more lucrative and much more appealing.
Oh, 100%.
Because if they can get it to where a AAA game maybe 4 months after release comes out on one of these services, right? For Sony, we'll say like there's first party games, or Microsoft gets even some of their first party games day one. $9.99 is way more appealing than $69.99. We'll see. It's really interesting. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's necessarily something we should be upset or shocked by. I'd be shocked if this is the last we hear of it, because I feel like we're going to hear a lot more. And I also want to point out, too, that if people are upset about it, something like NBA 2K, you can still cheat the system for a while, because there are certain games, right? Madden, for example, you purchase the PS4 version, you get a free upgrade to the PS5 version. So you're saving $10 still.
Right, yeah.
And you do that within the first year. You upgrade within the first, if you buy Madden within the first year before the next Madden comes out, you get the upgrade. So you could wait till Madden goes on sale for $39.99 over the holidays, get it, and then you'll get the next gen for $39.99.
Right, exactly.
We'll see. I mean, for the first year or so, you're going to be able to cheat that system a little bit if it's released on both systems. But, you know, if you want to really enjoy something like a Horizon Forbidden West, you're not going to want it releasing on both systems.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. Speaking of Madden, I did want to bring this up. Apparently, Fix Madden was, or the hashtag, I believe it was Fix Madden, was trending the other day. I have to look because I looked at it and I kind of ignored it. I didn't care because it's Madden. But it was trending so much on Twitter that EA, rather than just ignoring it like they normally do, in an attempt to pacify its community, had executive producer Sean Grady record a video message addressing the concerns, noting that the company is listening to feedback and will share more information on its plans for franchise mode moving forward, because this stems from an issue where franchise mode was receiving very small improvements this year. And it seemed as though people were not happy about the amount of improvements expected, because most of it was put on their, what do they call it in Madden? I know it's HUT in hockey Ultimate Team, right? And football Ultimate Team in FIFA. Is it called Madden Ultimate Team? Is it called MUT? You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think so, maybe?
Anyway, they promised to... They've clearly spent a lot of time overhauling that, but very little doing franchise modes, which people were very upset about this past week. And so although it seems like a hollow statement, it does prove that EA is at least listening. So we'll be curious to see where that goes. And I'm actually surprised that people are upset over this, because they're still paying for the same game every year for the most part. There's not that much, I think, in Madden that leaps forward from year to year. Maybe over a 4 or 5 year period, absolutely, but not from like 20 to 21 or 21 to 22, for example. I don't know. That's just been my feeling about hockey, though, too.
Yeah.
I feel like to add 60 new goalie animations to NHL 21 is not going to excite me to purchase it for $70.
It's because you don't play hockey, or you're not a goalie.
Yeah, exactly. So, Matt, speaking of community and just kind of sports in general, we found out our PS Plus games for the month of July. And I wanted your thoughts on these, because I don't know if we've talked about these at all. But based on PlayStation's 10th anniversary of having the Plus online service, you got a free theme you can download from the store, which thankfully it's free because it's not very exciting. But you also got 3 games for July. You got the FMV experience in Erica, which I've been wanting to try. You got NBA 2K20 and Rise of the Tomb Raider. So what are our thoughts on the PS Plus games for the week? For the month, I should say. Let
me just say boo right now to Rise of the Tomb Raider, since I purchased it like, a month or two ago?
Yeah.
I feel like that always happens to me. I finally purchased a game. It's like cheap, and I'm just like, yay. And then it's like free like a month later. I'm just like, oh, boo. But I only got it for $8, so I'm not super mad about it. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited about those, especially like you said with Erica. Like, I feel like I want to try that kind of like, what is it, first-person movie, basically, right?
Yeah, it's like a 3-hour experience, and so I'm down for that.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, kind of like, what was that on Netflix, Bandersnatch?
Yeah.
All right, so Last of Us Part 2, I'm honestly getting tired of talking about the controversy surrounding it. this week, the industry has sent lots of love to Lauren Bailey, right, who's with co-star Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie, penning a particular poignant response after Laura Bailey got several death threats and hate messages sent her way, which she posted on Twitter and said that she tries to remain a typically positive person, but wanted to share some of her experience with fans' reaction. Of course, co-star Ashley Johnson penned a simple response of, "I love you, Laura Bailey. Your performance in game was an absolute revelation and it transformed me. It was an honor to be on that stage with you. So much love and adoration." And so while the response to The Last of Us Part 2 has been overwhelmingly positive, the story hasn't sat well with a lot of people. One group started a petition to get the plot rewritten. Neil Druckmann has come out and admitted that he's been a constant target since sensitive details have leaked. He also explained earlier this week, quote, "This is kind of the cost. When you're doing something big and you might disappoint fans, there's a cost to it now, which is you're going to get a certain level of hate, a certain level of vitriol that you just have to deal with. There is no other way to make it go away," end quote. He also took to Twitter this week and he retweeted several people's comments to him and said that these gamers should really seek the mental help that they need because this is not healthy to treat someone like this. But I mean, I read some of those comments and they were everything from like, ethnic and racial slurs to attacks on, on his beliefs and attacks on his character. And so it was pretty vile stuff. Laura Bailey, I only read a couple of them. She was nice enough to block out the spoilery part of some of her comments, of what people were saying about why they were upset with her.
Yeah.
She, of course, plays the other character, right, that we meet in the beginning, Abby. She's received a lot of hate this week. I seen that even on the subreddit, there was both good and bad things being posted. I've tried to avoid that as much as possible due to spoilers, but I'm really just surprised by the way people are behaving with this. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this? It's just kind of shocking to me. People
are bored, Robert.
That is true. I guess it is quarantine.
The world is collapsing around us. People are stuck inside, whatever. Like they're bored. They don't, they're angry. I feel like I'm not saying that people aren't stupid and it's not right to be angry like this about a work of art, about a video game of all things. But I don't know. I mean, people are angry at other things, I'm sure, in the world right now that's happening in the world, right?
Right.
Maybe this is how they're taking their frustrations out. I mean, it's not right that it's directed at people in any way. That's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Some people just don't have an outlet, and maybe this is like their outlet that they feel like they can be heard or whatever. But when you're trying to tear someone else down like that, no, get out of here. Neil Druckmann's life, right? You need to examine your life and figure out what's really wrong with you.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that to attack the actor, they play characters. She has no control over that script.
Yeah,
she does not dictate. She just is given a script and she performs for it. Right. And even to attack the woman who wrote it, first off, she wrote Westworld, or she helped write on Westworld.
Yeah.
So what have you done with your life? Seriously, right? I mean, it's kind of like when I was an art history major and we would look at certain pieces of art. It's like, well, I could have done that. Yeah, you could have, but did you?
Right.
And most of the time, those people are doing that out of making a statement. Right. You want them to draw something realistic, they'll do it for you. They choose to do that style.
Right. It's their artistic vision.
Yeah. And so this is a vision. You may not like what happens in The Last of Us Part 2. I know I'm halfway through and I'm 99% sure. I mean, I come back and maybe next week I'll be like, I was totally wrong, but I'm like 99% sure I know the ending at this point based on being halfway through the game. Does it upset me? Absolutely. Am I going to be irritated by it? Probably a little bit. However, do I think it's absolutely Neil's and I'm sorry, I don't know her name that wrote it, their choice? Absolutely. Is it just a video game? Absolutely. Should I be angry at it? No. There's right. No reason to be angry because something you don't like happens in a game. It's kind of like Dodgeball. Do you remember Dodgeball when it came out?
Movie,
they screened it for audiences. Yeah. And the original ending was that
the bad guys win.
The bad guys win. And they had to change it because audience reaction was so split on it that they were afraid it was going to flop their movie.
Yeah. And that's why you had the end credits scene, like where like Ben Stiller's in that fat suit, basically calling people a bunch of whiners that, oh, boo-hoo, the good guys didn't win, had to win or whatever,
Yeah. I mean, whatever. It's let art be art. Goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to like it. You don't like it, don't play it. Return it. I don't really care.
Yeah.
You've got 4 million people. We didn't talk about that, but it's sold through 4 million copies already in 3 days.
Right.
Right. Or since, in 3 days. And so I imagine by now it's probably up to 6 or give or take. But
yeah,
get over yourselves.
Are you going to be more disappointed if you guess the ending correctly or if it's not correct?
I'll be more, I won't be disappointed if I guess it because, I guess I won't be upset with it because I'd like to think I'm a pretty well-read guy. And so I kind of know story beats pretty well. And I think about if I were to write this story and I really wanted to pull together something that would surprise people, I know I know what I think they're going to do is exactly what I would do. That's not my issue with The Last of Us Part 2. My issue with The Last of Us Part 2, and this will be something more we talk about in our spoiler cast, is the way that Ellie responds to stuff.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, we were talking a little about that off air.
Yeah, it's a revenge story. We all know it's a revenge story, but I feel like you had a chance to make Ellie a bigger person and to make her go, you know what? There's this cycle of violence that started with Joel and is ending with me. I can break it and I can be a better human being instead. And I think that that's ultimately the message I would have liked to have gotten out of this, is that we don't have to give into the cycles, right?
Yeah.
Instead, it shows how when we give into cycles, the consequences, I think, and how they get us nowhere. And I'm glad for that. But I don't know. I would have rather it been told slightly differently. And so we'll talk about that in the spoiler cast when we get there. So
yeah.
Anyway, leave the actors and Neil Druckmann alone is my end and tail here.
Exactly.
They didn't do anything to you.
Leave Brittany alone.
Yeah.
Remember that video?
Oh, I do. Where's that guy now?
I don't know. Probably sitting on a pile of cash.
He probably getting ready to make another video. All right, Matt, moving on. So there are a bunch of unofficial websites providing features that, frankly, Sony should have, and I hope they do have for the PlayStation 5. One of them, of course, is the likes of PSN Profiles. It gives you pretty in-depth trophy tracking. I'm on that site at least 4 times a week for you to track, your time of day, when you earn most of your trophies, when you earn trophies, what your average trophy is per day, et cetera, et cetera. There's a new website, apparently, that will document your PlayStation 4 playtime. It's called PS Time Tracker, and it's a little convoluted to get set up with. I haven't tried it yet myself, but you have to send a dedicated account friend request to get access to it. Once the bot has accepted you, though, your playtime is tracked. It's worth mentioning you'll need to be appearing online in order for that to work. So any games you play while hiding your status won't be tracked. The website divides your data up between number of sessions, overall playtime, and you can view your daily and monthly breakdowns. Right now, of course, The Last of Us Part 2 is probably the most time-tracked played game on there, with Fortnite, I believe, coming in a close second.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It only has about 2,000 users at the moment, so that's kind of a small pool. I think it's a really cool idea. My problem is that if it tracks my playtime, I wonder if, so I have Last of Us 2 part paused, and I get up to get a cup of coffee, then my baby starts crying. So then an hour later, I come back right before the game shuts off because I have it on that timer mode, and I pick the game back up. Is it going to show that I've been playing it for an hour? Am I going to artificially inflate my playtime with The Last of Us Part 2 where it says I've been playing for 85 hours, but I've really only been playing for 30?
Yeah. Well, what's weird to me is that people, the most people that are doing it are Last of Us 2, because that has a pretty detailed number when you save. Right. How many hours you've actually played the game. So that's a little confusing to me that people will be using on that one specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. I just found that article and I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Far Cry 6 news, hopefully soon. By the time this podcast goes live. No, I lied. It'll be, by the time we go live, it'll be a few days away. It is a week away from us recording this. Sunday, July 12th, Ubisoft's Forward Digital Showcase will probably give us our first glimpse of Far Cry 6. The game has been heavily rumored since Bloomberg's Jason Schreier let the cat out of the bag a while back, and it looks like Breaking Bad and Mandalorian actor Giancarlo Esposito will play the role of the main villain.
Ooh.
Esposito said he had been working on a huge video game a few days ago. The full quote sourced from an interview with Collider is as follows, quote, "This video game I did, which is going to be huge, can't really mention." That's all he really said. Adding more fuel, though, is Game Reactor UK, who in a deleted article stated the actor in question will indeed star in Far Cry 6. So, more than likely, we'll see the 6th iteration putting in an appearance. We'll also probably see more Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion as part of the showcase, alongside even more announcements and trailers. Are you excited for Far Cry 6?
We'll see.
Yeah, Far Cry 5 left me a little dry.
What's weird, because I was like, oh, I'm going to really like this. It's set in like the United States, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like a religious culty kind of thing. I like that kind of aspect to it. And then, I was like, oh yeah, it's still a Far Cry game. Still doing the same things over and over in different regions, Yeah. So I guess we'll see how they do it. We'll see if it's some kind of like fantasy island somewhere. You know what I mean? Like maybe they'll go back to that.
Far Cry gameplay is really fun, but what I realized about Far Cry gameplay is that what made it really fun too, though, was also the villains. Like 3, 100%. Boss was incredible. 4, what was his name? Ming or
Ming,
Ping?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, Ming. No, Ming.
I really actually enjoyed him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Troy Baker. I mean, come on.
Right, exactly. 5, I just didn't care about the cultist thing as much as I thought that I would. I thought, okay, this would be interesting, because we know I'm a very religious person, so I'm always interested when that's explored, because I want to see how it's presented. But then I think actually what ruined for me was the American setting. I think I got bored. Like, great, I'm in the wilderness of the United States. I don't think I cared for that as much. I want the kind of crazy. I want to blow up a tiger more than I do a grizzly bear, I think. Right? I
guess. I mean, if that's what you want to do.
I don't know. I think that's what I want more. There was something more fascinating about the other 2 games. Plus 3, like 4 was kind of cool because you were there for your mother's ashes and you got roped into this like war, right? This Himalayan war. 3 was interesting because you were like on vacation with your buddies and you got, sucked into this thing. Kidnapped. Yeah. 5, it's like you're a sheriff, or what were you, like a new sheriff or a new like police task force? They got called in to arrest this guy. And it was kind of like, I'm already here. I'm part of the police force. That's not nearly, there's no vulnerability there. With the other 2, you were kind of like this normal schmuck who got sucked into this stuff. I think that's also what appealed to me about the other 2 was like, I'm not supposed to be able to do this. I'm not supposed to be here. I just came to do this, So we'll see. We'll see what they do with 6. I actually wouldn't mind them going, what was it, Blood Dragon? That was really cool, like the Far Cry Blood Dragon. I really wouldn't mind something like that with like dinosaurs with like lasers on their heads. I would go for more of that. That was really cool. Are you excited about Watch Dogs Legion at all? Or
I honestly haven't really seen anything about it. I don't even think I saw the teaser.
The thing I remember about that was when they presented it at E3 a couple years ago was that you'd be able to play as any NPC, right? Like if that NPC died, you switch to another NPC. Well, that's all cool. That's all I really remember about it. And so they promised, and I think that's why I got moved to probably being a PlayStation 5 title, because I feel like it's going to be too tough to do that on a 4.
Yeah.
All right. Switching gears. Let's talk about Dirt 5.
Ooh,
get it?
Nice transition,
as usual. Bud. I know. Thanks. Racing games will play a big role in showcasing next-gen hardware. We've got Gran Turismo, Drive Club. Well, Drive Club's dead. I'm sorry. We got Gran Turismo, though, coming with a new one. Drive Club, I was thinking for PS4. So obviously, there's some really good-looking games. You never have a new generation without racing games, right?
Oh, of course
because
not.
they're good ways to showcase it. Well, case in point, enter Dirt 5 from Codemasters. It stated a while back the Xbox Series X version of the off-road racer will be able to run at an ultra-smooth 120 frames per second. And apparently it's been confirmed that the PS5 version will also be capable of running at that enhanced frame rate. So speaking with in a big PS5 feature in official PlayStation Magazine, Dirt 5's development director Rob Karp revealed that stat. The power of the PS5, he said, also means that we will have an option for 120 FPS, which is very exciting for the racers who know that every frame counts. So It sounds like we'll be able to choose between resolution or performance, which is pretty commonplace with a lot of games recently, especially in the PC crowd. But what do you think of that? 120 frames per second. Does that excite you? Does that make you want to play Dirt 5?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like frame rate is pretty awesome. Like, I mean, as a concept, I don't really think that I'd notice it that much. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if it keeps it looking amazing and looking sharp and consistent, then I mean, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah. I mean, I notice it when I notice it when it's in a game like Control where it chugs. I notice it in a game where like Housemarque. I think all of Housemarque's games are 60 frames per second. So I notice it in a game when I'm playing it. I've never had the experience, obviously, of playing a game in 30 and then playing it in 60. And I think that's the only way I would ever really be able to feel the difference. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I would need to play something like Last of Us 2 in 60 and then play it in 30 to really understand, or play a shooter in 60, then play it in 30, or play it in like 80 and then play it in 40, just to really understand it. When I'm playing a game, I'm never going, whoa, I can tell this is only 45 frames per second and it's dipping. I don't tend to think about that. Maybe that's just me. But that'll be cool. 120 frames, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of you PC nerds, PC Dawn, PlayStation 4 exclusive Horizon Zero Dawn will point its bow and arrow at both Steam and Epic Game Store on the 7th of August of this year, publisher Sony has announced, and was shaping to be a bold new move for the platform holder. This is the first major first-party title that Japanese giant has pledged to the PC. Of course, Death Stranding came, but that was not a first party, right? That was them purchasing. It was a PlayStation exclusive. And while it's unlikely to be the last, it feels interesting to see this. Some of the trailer that they revealed shows that Guerrilla appears to be pandering to the PC audience with sorts of graphical options, including adaptable frame rates up to 120 frames per second and adjustable field of view. Reflections have also been enhanced, perhaps paving the way for the potential PlayStation 5 improvements as well. And so this article kind of struck me as interesting. By the way, I did want to mention this. This article popped up today. Horizon Zero Dawn rockets straight to the top of the Steam bestsellers list as well. And so the game, the bestseller, I guess people pre-ordering it or putting on their wish list or whatever, Horizon Zero Dawn has shot straight to the top of the Steam bestsellers list as of, I guess, yesterday at some point, Saturday. So I wanted to point that out. Matt, what do you think of this? Does this bother you? Because this has been a point of contention.
Oh, how dare they? How dare they put a game like that on PC? No, I don't give a crap.
I mean, it's 3 years old.
I had my fun with it. I played it on on the PlayStation 4. I played the Frozen Wilds expansion. Like, I enjoyed the crap out of that game. So what? Let Sony make more money. I don't care. I don't know why it's taking them this long to be like, oh, we shouldn't do things on PC.
Well, isn't it? It's also under PlayStation Hits, so you can get it for $19.99 at this point. So if they're going to even put it at $49.99, it's a win.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, exactly. It's 3 years old.
Yeah.
You've gotten your money out of it, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's also a kind of a teaser to say, hey, you like this? Buy a PlayStation 5 and you can play Horizon Forbidden West.
Exactly.
Right? And so I wouldn't be shocked if this is the other part of that they're doing this for. They figure, why not let us go ahead and make additional money? More people will be interested in this.
Right.
And then perhaps we'll sell a few more PS5s. So we'll see what happens. And clearly people are interested. It's shot to the best sellers list in Steam and just in a couple of days of being announced. And so Sony knows what they're doing. I'm not upset about this. I like the PlayStation ecosystem. It doesn't bother me one bit.
Here's the thing. If they make more money and they can create better quality games like Horizon Zero Dawn, why would you be mad at that?
Exactly. I agree 100%. And you know what? Yeah, I just have nothing negative to say about this. I can't even say anything. I was trying to think, like, what would I complain about?
With a straight face, at least.
Exactly, yeah. It doesn't bother me one bit, so good for them.
For sure.
Cool. I'm glad we agree on that.
What's the next one do you think they do?
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agreed.
But I don't think they do it until Spider-Man 2 is coming out.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah. Sony's not dumb. I mean,
Yeah.
you can read the marketing machine for what it is.
Yeah, it's very calculated.
Exactly. So, yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if we see Spider-Man make the jump too. All right.
You mean make the sling? The web sling?
Yes, the sling, the swing. You know, it won't be stuck on PS4 forever.
Busting out the dad joke so quick.
I know. I'm trying. I'm working on it. You know, I'm suiting up.
He's got them all day, folks.
I do. Just stick around. What I also find interesting about this, though, and I wanted to bring this up, is could we, if they're pandering to the PC audience and seeing like 120 frames per second, adjustable field of view, and reflections are being enhanced, could it be possible that Horizon Zero Dawn receives a PlayStation 5 patch that allows you to play an upgraded version of it on PlayStation 5?
I mean, maybe, yeah. But at the same time, like, I feel like just games in general are going that way. So why not make more money off them by giving them to PC players as well?
Agreed.
You know, especially if like PS5, you're going to have, like we just talked about Dirt 5 and 120 frames per second. So like when you have a system that powerful, why not share the wealth in that sense? You know what I mean? Like,
agreed.
I don't know.
You're preaching to the choir here. Matt, there's been a lot of sexual accusations and weird things going on over the games industry the last 2 weeks. I don't know if you've paid attention to any of this, but there was like some Smash Brothers players that were accused of some weird sexual stuff. There was some stuff, obviously, with IGN, former IGN bosses that were accused of being very cruel and unjust towards people. There's a lot of weird stuff going on right now. Evo 2020 also was canceled earlier this year due to ongoing coronavirus stuff, but has been now canceled again with the online events that were set to replace it because Joey Cooler, commonly known as Mr. Wizard, has been accused of sexual misconduct. He was the CEO of Evo, but now he's been removed from the organization. I did not include the official statement here in the podcast. You can go find that and read that online. But there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the industry right now that you and I haven't really talked about or touched on. And I would just encourage people to keep their heads on and wait for the facts to come out and for everything to be straightened out and kind of official before going headhunting. Because I did see some stuff that I thought was interesting about the Smash players. One was upset because there was a girl that was 24 and he was only 14 or 15. And they had some relations, not quite all the way to intercourse, but had done some other stuff. And it's been, I don't know, several years since that happened. And he's now coming out and talking about it. And so she was kind of slammed for everything.
There's two sides to every story, Robert.
There is. And so I don't want to necessarily get into that here, but I did find it kind of odd because if I was 15 and a 24-year-old was interested in me, I would have probably been like bragging to my friends back then.
Right.
But he apparently was upset about this and that's his right. And that's fine. Course. I just would encourage people not to. And, there was another one where the guy was 20 and the other guy was 15 and they had messed around. And the guy then was upset that the 15-year-old was going to come out and say something about it. I think he's like 18 or 19 now. It was a couple years ago. Yeah. And
where is this? How sexual is Smash Brothers? What is happening?
I guess in the hotel rooms, you just never know. They go back for extra smashing late at night and turns into the wrong kind of smash.
Oh, so these are like in tournaments or what?
Yeah, tournaments.
Oh, okay.
And so it's kind of bizarre how everything's happening. And
I mean, don't you have to have a chaperone if you're under a certain age?
I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. Just be wary of this because obviously there are two sides to every story. And sure, some of these people are not what people thought who they were. But what's interesting about this is that 15 and 20-year-old situation, he did admit it was consensual at the time. And he didn't want anything negative to happen to this guy. But he came out and talked about it. And I don't understand, we live in such a volatile social time that I'm sorry, but you coming out and talking about it. You coming out and talking about it is going to get this guy canceled or worse, right? Especially when you say he was paying you $2,000 every month to keep it quiet, which you also were apparently accepting that money for quite a while before you decided to say something. So I don't know how that works either, but he offered him $2,000 at least twice. And he didn't say he didn't decline it. He said it showed up in his bank account. So I'm pretty sure he must have given him his bank account number. So I don't, there's something that doesn't add up here. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because, if you're looking forward to EVO, it has been canceled in the events. And there's just a lot of weird stuff going on. And so we'll see what happens and unfolds. I know people are really quick to jump on people when something comes out about someone. And I'm not saying you don't have the right to. I'm saying maybe just hold off on that until you get all the story, right? I'm not going to judge, kind of like we reported on that guy for Valhalla last week. Remember that was stepping down, the creative guy? Yeah. It was because he apparently cheated on his wife with a streamer. But that's also a personal issue. So I would hope people wouldn't attack him. He screwed up. And I'm not condoning what he did is right or wrong. That's obviously for him to deal with. But, and I have my own opinion on it, and that's different. But don't attack him for it. Let him deal with that personally. Yeah, exactly. That's very different than like what Epstein did, that's hugely different. Sure. So same thing with a lot of these Smash Brother things that are going on. And then of course this Evo thing. Let's just kind of wait and see what happens before we make judgments. Yeah. They'll have their day, right? Yeah, for sure. Matt, so moving on, we've talked a lot about delays this year. This is one that I was kind of looking forward to. And for those out of the loop, Budget Cuts has been delayed. It is a highly acclaimed title that became an early success story for VR on PC. It's a stealth action adventure in which you must sneak and stab through a company building full of hostile robots. It was announced to come to PSVR later this year and was planned for release this month. Unfortunately, that date has slipped. Budget Cuts will now sneak onto PSVR on September 25th. While this means we have an extra couple of months to wait, developer Neat Corporation has been busy building an entirely new level for this version of the game. It's called Panopticon, which is a really cool name based on Jeremy Bentham's Panopticon. The new stage has been designed specifically with PSVR in mind. You can read about it over on the PS blog. The stage is built around getting to a specific point in the middle of a circular space, which is what a Panopticon is. The importance of choice is the focus of the level, which will allow you to tackle it in a more than one way. And so that's kind of cool that they're having us wait, but they're having us wait because they're giving us another level. Nice. And so that would look like a really fun game. I would encourage people, if you have a VR headset or if you don't, and you're thinking about VR, look up Budget Cuts. It looks really cool. I was excited for that one. I forgot about it. And, I didn't even know it was coming out this month. So, all right, Matt, a couple more stories to move through and then we're almost done. And then we're done. I guess while I'm talking about PSVR, let me mention this. PSVR support will come to Dreams on July 22nd. So they talked about that a while back with Dreams. If you are a Dreams user, apparently we'll have a tutorial and you'll be able to build creations in VR. Matt, I wanted to point this out because I think this is actually a really good thing for VR because PSVR has plenty of titles coming to it, but does not have nearly as many as it could. The idea of being able to play user-created content really extends the lifeline of VR, I think, in a new way, right? So I'm kind of excited to see how that comes out. All right, I want your thoughts on this when I'm done with it. According to Bloomberg, Sony is considering a bid for Hong Kong-based holding company Leo Technologies, which owns Warframe, developer Digital Extremes. The group also lists Brink creator Splash Damage among its subsidiaries and has a significant stake in the support studio Certain Affinity. The multiplayer focus of these teams would plug a gap in PlayStation's portfolio. The Japanese giant is not the only organization, though, in the race. iDream Sky, a Chinese firm with Tencent among its investors, has been in discussion with Leu for some time and even tabled a $1.23 billion bid as part of a joint offer with CVC Capital Partners. The pandemic, of course, brought these discussions to a stalemate. However, the firm is very much in the hunt. Sony is hoping it can edge out other bidders with greater certainty of financing. Bloomberg sources explained. Leo's controlling shareholder Charles Yuk aims to choose a buyer and sign an agreement as soon as this month, people said. Any thoughts on this?
Kind of crazy. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. Warframe has been out for 5-6 years now and has a huge following on its platforms. They put out new content all the time and people love that game. I tried to get into it And from what I understand, it got really good. It started off kind of rough, but it got really good. And so I've always wanted to dive back into it. I just don't have the time, especially now.
Yeah, wasn't that one of the first like free games on PlayStation 4?
It was actually. I think it was a launch title, if I remember correctly.
With like Resogun. I thought it was Warframe and Resogun, right?
I think you're correct. What do you think of this plugging up Sony's multiplayer gap, to have these companies perhaps create a multiplayer game for them?
I mean, I feel like they're picking the right companies to do it, I guess. I mean, right?
Yeah, if Warframe is being supported 5+ years, 6+ years later, right?
Yeah.
They're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing. Maybe we get the next Fortnite or whatever from these guys, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Big thing in the multiplayer world.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Fortnite, Matt, because hopefully you're not bored of the Battle Royale genre just yet, right?
Okay.
Because if you're not, and even if you are, it doesn't really matter. Ubisoft,
because they're still making games for that genre.
yeah, has decided to take its own take on the concept in the mix with a game called Hyperscape. Now, I watched the trailer for this, and I'm kind of intrigued. This is a free-to-play 100-player online FPS, and of course, it is coming to PlayStation 4 in the near future. You can check out the game right now over on Twitch in action, as the game went into a closed beta phase on PC. So various streamers are already doing some sort of marketing for Ubisoft. From what I've watched and from what I've read about, it appears to be a Battle Royale game which focuses heavily on futuristic tech and verticality throughout the city of what's called Neo Arcadia. You start each match with a melee weapon, with guns procured on site and landmarks housing the most sought after loot. Hacking acts as part of the perks and grants certain skills designed around offense, defense, and movement. 2 can be held at any one time, as well as the same number of weapons. Hyperscape appears to stick to the tried and true formula of a successful Battle Royale title. But from what I've heard, is it also is attempting to streamline Battle Royale gaming. So when you think about Fortnite, there's a lot of management there between weapons and building materials and stuff like that. And if you think about a couple other Battle Royale games, Apex Legends, there's a lot of inventory management. There's a lot of weapon management. There's a lot of loot hunting. Hyperscape, from what I've kind of gathered, seems to want to narrow that and make it a little more simple. Yeah. But I encourage people to check out the trailer. I'm a little tired of Battle Royale games, but I think this one looks kind of interesting, and I may give it a go, especially if it's free to play.
Yeah.
What bothers me about this, Matt, is how much longer are we going to get Battle Royale games? Because there's only so many people who like to play them. When do we finally quit? When do these games start failing? I guess is my question. I
don't know. It's hard to say.
I don't know either. I'd be very curious. I actually think, though, speaking of, and I don't have this in the news, but I've kind of texted you off and on about the week about this. I think what Hunt Showdown, and it's not really quite, you wouldn't call that Battle Royale, would you?
No, not really, because there's not a Royale aspect. I mean, there's only 12 players in a match total, right?
Right, and you're fighting also against PvE, against creatures, and you're trying to collect bounties and head out.
Yeah, and it's also not last man standing. You know what I mean? Like, you can win before like everyone's eliminated.
Exactly. What I think's smart, and this is where maybe I could see future games doing this. This isn't in the news, but I thought it was really smart of Crytek to do this week. They are doing drops of legendary items, including a legendary character that is brand new to the game, that you can earn through Twitch drops just by watching streamers stream the game. And so what a lot of people have been doing is, myself included, is AFKing the streams because I want the loot, but I don't want to sit there for 12 hours and wait for the loot to randomly appear in my inbox. But what's smart about that, and what Crytek has efficiently done, is put Hunt on the front page of Twitch for the past week and a half.
Smart.
And so people who don't know what the game is, who open up Twitch and go, well, let me just see what's popular right now, and I'll watch something, are watching this game and going, this looks fun. Maybe I'll download this, check it out. It's also $19.99 on the PlayStation Store right now, if I remember correctly, or on Amazon at least. So you smack it with a sale, as well as Twitch drops, to get people to just artificially build the numbers. And all of a sudden you can increase the player base for a while and hopefully get some more people pulled into the game. So I thought that was really smart. That's not a news story, but talking about like limited space with these Battle Royale games, That's a really good way to bring your Battle Royale game back to the forefront, because you basically offer these streamers this opportunity to stream this game to increase their numbers. You increase your numbers. People are interested who are maybe haven't played the game in a while. They come back to it. You get new players interested in it from the Twitch streams with these streamers. So I'm just saying, good marketing.
For sure.
All right. Greedfall. I thought it was a pretty good RPG, even though I didn't finish it. It launched in September of 2019. It seems to have done well enough to keep developer Spider Games afloat and kickstart work on its next project. Apparently, we're not going to have to wait too much longer to find out what it is. They released a teaser image already, and they did confirm its debut. Its next game is part of a Nacon Connect digital showcase on Tuesday, July 7th at 6 p.m. BST time, 7 p.m. Central time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And the tweet confirming the reveal was also accompanying a teaser image. And it looks like a piece of flashy armor attached to some woman. I can't tell what it is. That's probably the point, though, I'm sure. But I'm kind of excited because they made Vampire, which I loved, Greedfall, which I thought was fantastic. And so I'm kind of excited to see what their next game is. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be exciting.
Yeah. Matt, that's it. That's all the news I've got for this week.
Oh, that's it.
Let me check. I know it was quite a bit, actually, which is funny because I didn't even take the news from the whole week. I took it just from the last couple of days because we are recording later than usual and I didn't want to be too far behind on the news. All right. I swear there was something else, though. Anything you wanted to add?
The factory that's churning out PlayStation 5s
Oh,
in 30
yeah.
seconds.
I thought that was interesting. Let's talk about that for half a second.
Yeah. I saw the article. It says Sony's factory can assemble a PlayStation console every 30 seconds. That's crazy.
That is insane. Now, they're going to have to split that between PS4, PS4 Pro, and PS5, 2 different SKUs. So they basically have 4 machines. But if you think about that, that's a PlayStation 5 every other minute.
Yeah, that's insane. But do they really need to push that many more Pros and PS4? You know what I mean?
No. So that's the interesting thing, right? Yeah, the production on those will probably slow down a little and they'll ramp up the PS5. And so I would imagine that every maybe 2 to 3 minutes will be a PS4 or a PS4 Pro, or maybe just be an on-demand thing when they see supplies are running low.
Yeah, of course.
What that does say, though, is that as long as they've got the parts, they should be able to pump those out pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm excited about that.
So to me, that just says no, there's not going to be any shortages this holiday season.
No, and if there are the holiday, I think by 2021, right?
Yeah,
production will ramp up fast enough to make up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all I had.
Yeah, it's worthwhile because we still don't know the price, but that clearly tells us that other than manufacturing costs, the speed of manufacturing will not be an issue.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling too. I was like, man, that quick? Like that's all it takes?
And I think what it said, there's only 4 employees in the entire factory. The rest of it's automated.
Yeah, it's all automated efficiency.
So, I mean, cost-wise, you're not spending a whole lot other than electricity and those 4 employees. So, robots aren't going to take sick days. So I think that's exciting. I'm hoping that we don't have to worry about shortages, and I'm hoping that we can get a fair price point. So $3.99 for our digital only, $4.99 for the one with the disc.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right, Matt. See you soon is kind of awkward this week because I only found 4 games.
I was going to say, as in awkward, you mean non-existent?
Non-existent. The drop refuses to be existent. And this is on a Sunday, so, you would have thought that they would have had more. Unfortunately, that means that I had to go onto the store myself and find what games I could. And I didn't scour completely, but I did. When I started recognizing games from the previous week, right, I stopped looking through the pages. So I actually only found, what do I have listed here? 4 games. And I'm not sure about one of them. F1 2020 edition comes this week. That is, of course, Formula One racing. Need I say more? Snakes and Ladders. Do you want to kind of give us a shot what you think Snakes and Ladders is?
Snakes and Ladders. This is the new Metal Gear Solid game. This is the game Kojima wanted you to play back in the day. Yeah, there's a lot of climbing that Snake does, but, that's what it's about.
He uses the same ladders that
they use in Death Stranding.
That they use in Death Stranding.
Yes, 100%.
It's actually Death Stranding with Sam and the other characters removed, and Snake is dropped in the middle of this alternate universe.
Yeah,
where he only finds ladders. But there's multiple versions of him because they do a BioShock Infinite spoilers for the 7-year-old ending.
Yeah.
All right, and then there's Marvel's Iron Man VR, which is getting good reviews, which I'm not going to lie. If I had more time and I didn't have a child to worry about having to hear cry, I would be playing Iron Man instead of Last of Us because it seems way more upbeat.
It just seems way more upbeat.
Yeah, I mean,
you're still on the fence whether it is going to be upbeat or not.
Well, for all I know, Tony Stark could be destroying everyone in the world. Yeah, and then of course there's Clash Force, which is Clash Force. That's the sequel to Broforce.
Oh, that'd be great. I did like Broforce. That was a great game.
Yeah, that was a great game. This is a game I did not play enough of.
Yeah.
So anyway, 4 new games this week. Iron Man.
See you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. You know what's a shame about that too is that for as hard as they wanted to push Iron Man VR, you would have thought they at least had the blog drop up to make sure people remembered.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they did some marketing, but come on. Do they have a blog post about Iron Man coming out this week on the PlayStation blog?
Maybe. I think they're doing like a Iron Man PSVR system like bundle.
Yeah, they are doing that. Absolutely. They don't have anything. I'm looking. I'm scrolling down through. I don't see anything about it on the blog. Oh, wait. There's one at the very bottom of the page. Marvel Iron Man VR, tinkering as Tony behind the scenes. There's one blog post there from like a week ago. The other thing I guess I wanted to mention that we didn't talk about that did just get announced a couple of days ago is Shuhei Yoshida announced something called PlayStation Indies. I don't know if you saw that or not. I forgot to mention that earlier.
Oh, yeah, I sent you that too.
Yeah. And so he is, of course, people thought that they were going to kind of forget about indie games the way that they had worded that they really wanted to focus on the big budget titles next gen. But Shuhei officially announced something called PlayStation Indies Initiative. And it's their goal to spotlight and support the best of indie games being published on PlayStation and the entire indie community as a whole. So that's kind of cool. I'm glad. Because I was worried that they were not going to highlight indie games. Now, of course, it's selective highlighting, but at least they are highlighting them, right?
Yeah.
And they introduced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games with trailers and write-ups.
Cool.
Yeah. Go check out Recompile. That looks really awesome. It's coming to PS5. It's a hacking-themed platformer. That was the one that caught... Oh, and also action platformer Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch, coming to PS4. Those are the 2 indies that really caught my eye off of that list. So check those both out.
Cool.
All right. Anything else for this week, Matt?
I think that's it, Robert.
Yeah, that's all I've got too. We'll be back next week. Thank you for supporting us over on patreon.com/weare1ur2. If you do that month to month, if you don't and you'd like to support us, I've got a child. I could use the support.
Help support Rob's child.
Yeah, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Find us on your favorite podcasting service. Like, share, rate, and subscribe to us. We appreciate that as well. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. We will do a Patreon-only spoiler cast at some point for Last of Us Part 2 that I'll release to the public at a later date, but it'll be available to patrons for a while first.
Nice.
And so I think that's what we're going to do. We'll record that and I'll edit that. I'll give Dave the week off on that one. And until next time, Matt, I guess thanks for joining me and continuing to game on.
Game on. Iron Man, Iron Man. This isn't his theme song, Iron Man. Outro music!